I'm very happy and actually proud to lead you through this panel now, and it's getting a bit Friday the 13th-like, but we will make absolutely the best out of it. So you know that we had 4 panelists announced, and let's see how this is going down if the 4th panelist is showing up. In the meanwhile, we will make out the most with our 3 panelists, and there it already starts. I please welcome to the stage Elisabeth Dal Bianco. Elisabeth, probably yesterday at this time, did not know for sure that she's participating in this panel. So all the more we are happy to have her here. She is communication operations manager at IKEA, and she will give us some insight on how IKEA in Austria is doing at the moment, on how things are in regards to sticking up for their DEI philosophy, and why, especially in times like this, it's very important to follow the values to their core DNA. We all know IKEA. We all maybe built a billy shelf for our living room. We all had a hot dog after buying too many napkins and and candles in the store. And we also know that IKEA is very openly and proudly sticking up to the DEI philosophy, to the inside and to the outside. And maybe for those being in Vienna, you have already seen the Pride Month campaign very boldly telling us to sleep in an IKEA bed, but regardless with whom. The second guest I welcome to the stage is Hannes Mösenbacher. Hannes is the CRO of Raiffeisenbank International. Raiffeisenbank International is I'm from there, so I can say the biggest investment and corporate bank in Austria, and is active in 11 countries in Central Europe and CE. So he will give us an insight on not only Austria, but also what he sees as potential in those countries. Hannes is very special to at least the Embrace community, which is the LGBTI community, the employee resource group in RBI. And he was a big supporter since the beginning in 2017. So he's not only coming to panels like this, but also he provided his network and his context and enabled Embrace to put the information out to colleagues, which, for example, is leading to colleagues from Kosovo and Romania being here today. I also want to use the opportunity of having RBI and IKEA representatives here to celebrate a bit of the successes that we have, and also to remind us that corporates can be a big ally, actually, towards the LGBTI community. If you think back in 2022 in Austria, there was a change of law which changed the blood donation regulation and enabled LGBTI people to actually, without discrimination, also to donate blood. So this is something that I want to give you in terms of hope, but also something that we already achieved, especially in this corporate world, showing that with the push of individuals and strong corporates, there can be a lot that is to be achieved. Our third panelist, Matt Foster, please welcome to the stage. Matt is Director of Inclusion and Impact at Ogilvy. It's one of the biggest, if not the biggest, advertising agency globally. And it's like really the big firm doing the big campaigns for the big brands like Coca-Cola and Jameson, but also for the like social responsibility campaigns that are running there. If you look at Matt profiles, it's just really mind-blowing, kind of, because he is also very active in LGBTI community, but also in different actually, you know, I'm just going through whatever he does, and it's a lot, and I was asking myself, when are you sleeping? But he's like an award-winning, I guess that much. So he's a British Diversity Award winner. He's very active, basically, to bring inclusion to life through networks, using also the power of brands. And I'm very looking forward to hearing your insights. Most likely, we will have a very bold visitor as the fourth guest of our panel, but we will see for that later. In the meanwhile, I say welcome. And what we want to explore a bit is what's the situation in the corporate world? So what's the status, maybe what has changed, and what is the outlook? So is there any adjustment, and how can we, if the decision is to continue the path to support inclusion and their DEI philosophy? So maybe let's start with you, Elizabeth. I mean, if you look at the campaign, you could think that nothing has changed, because we are very boldly told to sleep basically with whoever we want. But I guess also that the campaign was planned before there were certain changes also coming from governments. So what's the current status? Have you received some pressure or push coming from that? What's the situation on the inside?
I think it works now, yeah. Good question, so many questions. Maybe I'll start with when we started that campaign, because of course it takes quite some time before it is on a poster or somewhere like a Vista plakat. So at IKEA we have the privilege, and I always feel very privileged, that we are a value-based company. So I don't know if everybody knows, but 80 years ago there was a young man, 17 at that age, in Sweden, who wanted to build, who sell furniture. So he started this company in Sweden. And he was always with the many people, and his vision was always to be there for the many people. And I think this really visionary person, Ingvar, has shaped this company very much. It's more like a family-owned company, and I think that this visionary person has really brought all the values within IKEA. And I think for us, it's the beauty of having the possibility to be who we are and bring our whole self to the company. So we have a very long tradition in being a diverse workforce and really challenging us to be more diverse. And when it comes to the campaign, I think this was something last year when we started. Every year we have a focus year, and this year it's sleep, obviously. So we always try, of course, as communication department, to also convince our marketing to go bold and big on positioning campaigns, on really tell who we are as a company. And if you combine it with a topic which is in the focus and marketing wants to spend money on that, I think it helped us really to bring everybody on board and get the beauty of an out-of-home campaign. So we didn't have that every year yet, yeah. But I think that we have done our homework, and we wanted to really be a company authentic, there for the many, and really have our house in order before we go big and bold on a campaign outside. But I think we decided last year that now even more time to step up and show the world, and the world in Austria, on whoever you love, it should be not a problem. It should be really like enjoy your life, and I think that's a very nice visual to bring that to the ground.
Thank you. Now we heard that sometimes reactions are different, right? If there is a big push for it. Can you already tell how the campaign was received, what the feedback is?
I think Anna and Nikki might smile now. I mean, I think 95% was really, really positive. We get so much love on social media. And then, of course, there are these 1 or 2 emails you receive or requests to take off the posters and things like that. But I think we have really shown that this is for the many, and that really 95% of the people think the same. I think we are in a good place here in Austria. I think it would not be the same if we have done this campaign probably in another country. But I think that what really makes it possible is that we show day-to-day life in a really natural way, and that it should be for everyone.
Thank you. So Hannes, you are representing a bank, obviously. Where are you standing there in terms to DEI philosophy? How is your view on it as of now, as of today?
Well, as you said, we started, or I was started by Pavel and Co. and friends. So I was invited. So we now need to do this well. And they were looking for one of the allies in the board, so they knew they need a multiplier lever. And why did I join? I joined, or I easily accepted the invitation, because for me, I'm a true believer and I'm a curious person in people. And, and we were talking lately so much about the UN Charter of Human Rights. And already back in the 50s, it was a clear statement signed by, I don't know, well above 100 nations, saying, hey, we are all equal, independent of our religion, of our race, of our color, of our sex. And even in the 2000, it was then added that also the sexual orientation was being considered by this clear statement and principle. So I was curious, and I was eager to support the journey. I would dare to say that we have stretched sometimes the organization a little bit, but this was for the higher good. But where it was definitely good, and you gave a sneak preview to this, and I have never thought how much a corporate can influence opinion building, but also even going to as far as managing legal truths. And for those who are being first time here in Vienna, so in Austria, you have a situation where if you're gay, you would not be, you're being even asked on the blood donation form whether or not gay or not. And this, of course, is highly discriminatory, because you could also have straight people who have a high sexual intensity of life. So why should they be allowed to donate, and the other one who is maybe in a long-term relation is not being allowed to donate? And Raiffeisen is, at least in Austria, being considered a rather conservative company, rather. Hey, well, give me a little bit a head start, because at least here you have to know that we are hosting at head office RBI, we're hosting over 75 different nations. 75 different nations. So if you claim diversity, and of course it includes also different sexual orientation, but to manage 75 different nations, cultures, religions, gender, and so on and so forth, it comes with work. It comes with work. So where are we now? I think we had a steep start. We were dreaming also to roll it out to our CSE countries. In Albania, you would not believe it, this year, so 2 years or 3 years ago, we have been the first company raising the pride flag in Albania. And our CEO was really publicly offended. He was publicly offended, so he's a nice breed from a French and Greek guy. He said, well, I don't care. Hannes, you must know I don't care. Well, then it was a little bit too steep, and last year they were even more extreme. They have just colored via some lightning the whole head office in the pride flag colors. And they were handing out buttons, they had special events. And I think these events are so important because it could bring down a little bit this felt restriction, this felt personal border, whatever. And you also would not believe how our remaining 12 countries, also our colleagues in Kosovo, have really publicly demonstrated the pride flag. So you would not expect that they are going outside and saying, hey guys, listen, this is natural for us. The flag is available since the 70s. The community and the movement anyway is along for much longer. So, but also clearly committing and standing up for this. At the same time, I have to admit, I reached out to some of my CEOs and asking, guys, listen, would you be willing also to raise the flag in the other countries? So we are acting in Hungary, we have a bank in Russia, we have a bank in Romania, and so on and so forth. And they also clearly said, Hannes, me as my person, as a person X, I truly believe in diversity. But I can tell you, if we go out there, we will really highly irritate our customer base. So I think it's a journey. It's a journey. We need to keep on going. We're mentioning it on the group meetings. We also invite our CEOs, the Albanian one and the Kosovarian one, me talking about and asking our colleagues from Embrace where we are. I think that's easy, but maybe there comes the time when they're also willing to go the next step. So I think this is the level of where I would claim that we are honestly being today, so not overselling, accepting where we are, but also with the consciousness and the self-understanding what we are doing now in Vienna. I think nobody would have thought that we can do this 7 or 8 years back. So you have now the fourth panelist. Very good.
Yes! Thank you, Hannes.
Please.
Yes, please, Rekam, welcome to the stage. Now, with Reka, we have a very bold member of our excellent group here, because actually Reka is leading the bold community within the Austrian Commerce Chamber. The bold community is only founded 2.5 years ago and already has over 2,000 members, and basically is about bringing people and across the industries together. So it's about innovation, it's about cooperation, and it's a lot of diversity per definition. So Reka is here, and actually it's a spoiler because she's not representing corporate, and still she's here in our corporate panel, and actually Jens just introduced it perfectly, because we think it's important to have a look from outside the bubble, to give some new inspirations, some ways of thinking, and just to broaden the view, and to bring some new, fresh ideas. So welcome, Reka.
Sorry for the delay.
So we are just chatting about, no, they are just telling us very professionally about where we are standing in terms of the why philosophy and what's going on at that moment. We just had an introduction from IKEA and from RBI, and now I'm asking Matt. So, I just can imagine, and I'm actually really curious to hear what's going on in terms to follow DIY philosophy, because it's, I think, also in your DNA, what you do on a professional basis and as a person. So what's the situation, and maybe how has it developed in the last month?
Thanks, Katja. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you to Ludo and Pavel for inviting me, because I think I'm the only Brit on the programme, and I'm here despite Brexit, so I'm very grateful. I did not vote to leave. I feel very European. So it's honestly, it's a real pleasure. Also, I'm not a native German speaker and everyone's speaking in English. So again, thank you, because my German is not so good. Nicht so gut. So Ogilvy is part of WPP, which is one of the largest communications networks in the world. Ogilvy is probably what I'd call the jewel in the crown. We are 14,000 people all around the world. And as a multinational company, obviously we have been impacted by the sort of current backlash, which, as Jens said earlier, started before Trump, but of course Trump has kind of turned it into a very sort of dynamic DEI dismantling machine, you could call it. So I was very worried when the first executive orders came out of the Trump administration, because I wanted to know whether or not I worked for a corporate that would remain loyal to its values or would abandon them. And the first few months were interesting because there was no communications coming from the center, but we were still doing our jobs. I was certainly still in a role. And then around me, you would see corporates very publicly saying that they were abandoning their DEI functions, mostly the tech companies, as you know, the tech bros, because for them, they are looking for tax cuts and deregulation in AI, and they are front row and center at the inauguration, so they have skin in the game. They're very much looking to acquiesce to whatever Trump wants currently. Then there were, I suppose, some which were more disappointing. And is there anyone from Accenture in this room? I don't want to single you out, but you know, your logo is there, and you know, your CEO, Julie Smart, I think, sweet, made some announcements not so long ago saying that you were sunsetting your programs. And don't know whether you are or not, because sometimes the coverage isn't necessarily true. Sometimes it's about the way that a company might be changing the communication around it. I don't quite agree that Accenture's move to a meritocratic model actually really works. It seems to me not very faithful to the whole DI philosophy, because for us, we want meritocracy, but the point is to get to a meritocracy, we need equity. We are not there. We do not have equality yet. So this myth of meritocracy, which we all want to move towards, doesn't actually exist. Going back to WPP and Ogilvy, we started to get some information finally a few months ago at a town hall from our CEO, where it was clear that we were to hold on to our values, that we started our DEI journey long before 2020, long before what happened with George Floyd, that we were going to stick to our guns and remain doing what we do, but that we also had to be realistic. We also had to take into account what's happening in the States. And we have a big North American operation. It's where most of our business is. It's where most of our revenue comes from. We have millions of dollars in federal contract work in our Washington, D.C. office. A lot of that is lobbying work. So our diversity function in North America has had to adjust. They're still figuring out what they can do. And for those of you who don't know, Trump can't change laws that quickly because they would have to go through Congress. So you make an edict via executive order, and then you issue some guidelines. And in the case of Trump, there are guidelines issued by the Department of Justice and the Commission for Equal Employers' Opportunities, or something like that, the EEOC, that have reinterpreted laws from the 1960s that were first enacted by Lyndon B. Johnson to support the civil rights movement, but now are being interpreted the other way, i.e. you can't run a leadership program for women because you're discriminating against men. You can't run a leadership program to support, let's say, you know, in my instance, I'm running a program for black men in my industry because we've only got 16 in an office in London of 1,000. Can you imagine? And that means that it does have to change in the US. But the philosophy remains central to our company globally. And the work that I specifically do in the UK, we're carrying on as normal.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the insight. Now, Rika, you know a lot of entrepreneurs, and what is the take of inclusion DEI philosophy there? Is it a topic? Has it changed? So what's going on there?
So thank you so much for having us, for inviting the bold community, as it's not a very specific DEI project itself, but it stands for diversity, and it stands for especially cross-industry, cross-country collaboration, right? So it's about involving everybody. We are present in over 70 countries already, so it's like really bringing everybody to the table to shape the economy of the future together. That's kind of the bigger vision behind it. And what we do realize is, if I'm being very frank and honest, is we are a bit of a bubble, right? So I work day in, day out with people who are working on the future, who are thinking about bigger visions of how can we make things more inclusive, how can it be better for us all. So of course, everybody is already very much on their mind thinking about it needs collaboration with everybody, and it needs diversity at the core. So it's not a topic as in where we discuss that we need extra initiatives for that, because it's kind of ingrained in how we operate, in our events. For us, it's, you know, like things like, okay, we need to make sure that every panel has a woman on it. Like, that's not a conversation we're having. It's like natural that there is not an only male panel happening at our events. That's a no-go, right? But it's not something that we need to discuss or that we have conversations around. It's something that is very, it's already in there. So we don't need to discuss it. But what we do see is what we're also getting a bit shown by the community, or especially bigger corporates that we have in the community, is that the topic is not so present at the moment, or it's like, I feel like it was more present a couple of years ago, whereas now it's you know, it seems to be there's a lot of other topics that are now taking the spotlight, if I may put it like that. So that's also something that we discussed, if that's something that we need to bring it in more when we're thinking. We have in November, we have our Bold Experience, where it's like an innovation festival where you can experience the future. And is that something where we then want to give space for that, want to raise more awareness in that? So yeah. So to make a long story short, I think the Bold community is a bubble of innovators from around the globe who are very much already working on it, feeling it, standing for it, and yeah.
Okay, thank you. Now we heard already a bit about that there's different perspective in different countries, and you said, Elisabeth, that if the campaign would have been in another country than Austria, that maybe the outcome would have been different. Do you see in Austria, because it's like you're operating globally, right? Do you see any pressure to change anything, to adjust your path? Or how is this coming together? Are you in, I mean, I would not say happy Austrian bubble, but how is the, like, if you look at it globally, is it influencing your strategy or your statements, or how is it interacting?
I think when it comes to the global IKEA landscape, I think we are all on the same route, and I think as a value-based company that unites us across the globe. I just think that maybe the tone of voice or the loudness might be different from country to country. So, for example, we are very big in the US. We've just invested, I think, $2 billion in expansion in the US a couple of years ago. And of course there, and I discussed that with also friends and colleagues, I think the IKEA would not back up from our cultures, and we will still be true to ourselves and be authentic, and will go our way. It's just maybe we'll not cry it out or scream it out to Trump administration at the same voice which we have done maybe the year before. I think what we really do in the US, and I've discussed that with colleagues, is that we stay consistent. I think what really our colleagues and also our customers need to know is that we stay true to our values. This will not change, and we do it like peu à peu, like we go one step after the other. And I think also in terms of diversity, we are not as equal as we want to be everywhere across the globe. I think that's a journey. I think, yes, we are in a super happy bubble, but still also when I see my colleagues who work on a day-to-day basis on the DI management, you know, we have, for example, how many people do we have with disabilities in our stores? How many do we have in our office? And how open are we for our customers? Do we have range for people with disabilities? So I think we all have a long way to go, and I think that, and my belief is that IKEA will do the same in the next 80 years. So this will always be part of us and our DNA. But of course, we see that it's like a adjustment of road, you know, that of course you need to make sure that you advance on the way, and I'm pretty sure that there is, and we can see that across the globe, that people want to have companies stand up for the AI, and I think that also in the US, and I heard that it's not called AI, but they call it belonging and things like that. So I think they will still continue, but maybe reframe it so they won't have direct issues immediately, because of course also we are business and we want to survive. We just invested a lot of money, so it's also very hard from a public affairs point of view on how far can you go at what time, and yeah, I think if we stay on track we will succeed.
Thank you. As yesterday you said, I can ask you about shareholder value. Actually, this is going a bit into what you said. Of course, you have to take care of what the public wants. You have to think about the economics of your company, and it's just as that. Do you see a gap between what the bank is standing for, also with their values, and the shareholder values? And is there a bridge, or what's the outlook, I don't know, for the next 5 years bringing this together?
Well, now, of course, you were giving an insight of our pre-discussion. So, you know, I had the whole night preparing myself for this question. So listen, the one is the shareholder value, the one what we believe on shareholder value, it's about sustainability and it's about long term. That's the one thing. And the other thing is we have just 4 corporate values. The one is responsibility, the other one is learning, and the third one is collaboration. The fourth one, what you can now say is not so important maybe in this discussion, is proactivity. And I was also, let me add a third information on the table here is, as I said in my introduction, at this moment, our head office here in Vienna is hosting 75 different nations. 75 different nations, and I don't know how many religions. So, what do we understand by responsibility? We own our decisions. We own our decisions. Well, that's a clear paying into long-term sustainable shareholder return. If you're not taking responsibility of your decisions, you will not succeed. Collaboration, well, I cannot claim collaboration if I single out certain people. If I say, well, you are disabled, I single you out. Well, what is the definition of collaboration? We work together. We listen to each other. We co-create. This is our definition of collaboration. So for me, again, paying into the long-term sustainable shareholder value creation of RBI Group. And the last one, learning. And I would even truly believe that this is a sort of a key on our journey, because I think what Matt was saying, yes, there is a final stage what we could reach, but why we are not yet there? Well, the one cohort still has something to learn from the other cohort. And you would not believe how much I learned in this journey with Pavel and colleagues. Same-sex couples taking care of kids. Hey, that's a hell of an effort. You would not believe. But if you're willing to listen and to learn, hey, this is adding value. So I'm deeply convinced. So can I now already mathematically prove it? Maybe not, but Jens, I think he has even done some research clearly demonstrating that diversity at D0 is maybe a little bit more work, but on the long term, it contributes to the success of a company, maybe even measured in shareholder value. So you think it was work that we realigned?
You know, I always would ask you before. Kind of. Matt, when listening to that, what's your view on that? What's your view on also bringing the different, I don't know, status, whatever the word in plural is, together in the different countries?
I think, first of all, Jens stole my fire a bit in his keynote because I wanted to talk about the impact device list, because I keep an eye on that. I keep an eye on how AGMs are voting. And it's heartening to see that these massive corporates, again and again, are voting 98-1, sometimes 97-2, to keep their DEI programs. So if that's not a resounding sense of what shareholder values mean in this current landscape, I don't think we can find a better one. I think in terms of looking at how DEI works across the world, you have to be, I mean, I'm British, but my mother is Filipino. I grew up in Hong Kong and then later on spent my teenage years in Nairobi. So I have quite a global outlook on things. It's quite unreasonable to expect some nations and cultures and countries to suddenly fly a pride flag as much as I would do. There are countries in which it is illegal to be LGBTQ plus in Africa, across the Middle East, even within Southeast Asia. Sometimes that's very much tied to faith. And we have to work in those countries. We have operations there. Ogilvy has operations there, for instance. When we celebrate Pride Month globally, from an internal perspective, what we try and do is make it clear that we support all our LGBTQ plus colleagues around the world. And that is a message that everyone in every office receives. But obviously, we don't then ask our office in Dubai to enact, to activate any pride campaigns that we might create from the center for markets that are much more open to them. So I think, if you have to become very adept when you're working globally at sort of cultural sensitivity. You have to also accept that there are simply some no-go areas. I think that's part, at least in my profession, of being a good sort of a good DEI professional. It's essential. So when you are working cross-region and bearing that in mind, you have to take your successes where you can. I mean, I think it's fantastic that things are happening in Albania. I was there last summer, which is ostensibly a Muslim country, albeit somewhat secular as a Muslim country, perhaps how Turkey used to be. And elsewhere, you have to, like I said, just give the message that employees are welcome. We have both local and global community networks. So at Ogilvy, we have Ogilvy Pride. We have those communities in different offices, and then we have a global network called Unite. And the offering of that global network enables every LGBTQ plus colleague to speak in confidence to other members across the world, to be able to gain access to resources and a sense of community, even if they are an Ogilvy person, like I said, working in Kuala Lumpur or somewhere where LGBTQ plus identities are not, recognized under the law.
Thank you. I have the impression that it was said before, but it's like a step by step. And sometimes the way is not straightforward. Sometimes you have to take a step back, but it will be step by step. And then we will be in the situation where we are. So Reka, we also talked before. It's not only you, Hannes. So when we talked before, and you said it now also, it's in the DNA of Bold to actually have that community.
And the colors that we're using.
They are bold, right? So if you look from your bubble, because you said you're also a bubble, if you look from your bubble to the corporate bubble, which is operating on a much bigger scale, but at the same time is maybe facing the same questions and the same ideas. What would you share as your look forward? So what must happen in the next, 5 years to be successful on a smaller scale as well as on a bigger scale?
I think I can only talk from our perspective, from the Bold perspective as a community, that we're trying, since we exist from the very beginning on, to create safe spaces in any shape and form. So that's what we started with, and that's what we're still working on, is that every time people come together, they feel safe to share their ideas, but they also feel safe on all emotional level, physical level, and all that. And even, if somebody crosses that border, or how do you say, crosses that line, then that person gets expelled from the community. We've had that before. It happens. And that's something that we stand for. So that, wherever we are, and we also operate in many different countries. We're working very strongly together with our colleagues from Advantage Austria, who have 100 offices. So by that, we're already in a lot of countries, and also in a lot of countries where it's not maybe as open as it is in Austria, for example. So whenever we have a bold event, we do make sure that we create those safe spaces. That also comes back to, we, for example, have smaller groups when we meet. So we always look at around 30 people that we bring together in something that we call manufactured serendipity events. So we manufacture everybody who is there. I think that's also one of those factors that make it safe. But there is a serendipitous element in there, because whoever you meet, you might have not met before, and there's something very magical that can come out of that. That's where we believe that innovation really sparks and happens. So when I look into the next years, and what I would also have an ask for when I look at corporates, is to think more about how do we create those safe spaces, but without singling people out. Like, I just heard something very funny happening in our organization, that apparently there was a breakfast organized for LGBTQI plus members, and I was like, but how do you send out the invitation? Like, I was like, what? I don't understand. So I think it's something about, like, how do you create those safe spaces without singling out anybody, or without, you know, overstepping any borders that you might not want to overstep. So that would be my ask.
Thank you. So, is there questions in the audience, online or there? Is there any, like, helping guy with a microphone? If not, I will do it.
Thank you. You mentioned the values of Raiffeisen, that they're rather conservative. I just wanted to ask a simple question. Do you think Raiffeisen wants to be a bank for queer people?
I would dare to say we are. I dare to say that we are. And I accept that you level them conservative. I would not give any level on collaboration. I would not give any level of responsibility, nor I would give a leveling of learning. What I was meant is that in Austria, maybe the Raiffeisen organization is being considered rather conservative, but we invite every client to be part of our community, and a client truly so.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Hi, I actually also work for a corporate, so a question or a comment that comes back, and you also echoed it, Hannes, was if we show our support for the queer community, our customers will turn our backs on us. Is this a real concern for corporates? Because, I mean, I work in the beer business, and I cannot imagine all the customers, or even a significant majority of the customers, saying, we will not buy your beer. They will buy it because it's there, right? They are used to it. This is not a value-changing decision. So that's my challenge, my question.
No, I'm completely with you, and I think we have to be very mindful. You know, when talking about, I think you mentioned that you had some negative reactions. I think we really have to learn as a community how we handle reaction in the public space. Because, you know, you get maybe 2,000 emails as IKEA, or maybe 1,000 as Raiffeisen. But this means and we are serving 17 million clients. 17 million clients. So if here 1,000 clients feel offended and taking the effort of writing email, I accept this. I even appreciate that they took the effort of writing me. And maybe this is, you know, they have fears, maybe they have issues, missing information or whatever, not meeting these great people. But, you know, it's out of 17 million clients who take the effort writing me an email. And I accept this. So I'm not saying, hey, they should feel disencouraged, or I hate it, or whatever. I'm even happy that they took the effort. But it's 1,000 out of 7 million euros. Where I'm completely with my co-panelist here, I think, and this is what has changed, and this is a big change, colleagues. This is a big change. That maybe country by country, you go in a little bit more thought through, and maybe not anymore like one size fits all, and let's go full steam, and let's completely just say, hey, here we are, this is Pride, this is what we do. And I think this is a consistent message across this panel here. But this does not mean that on a group basis, we are not clearly, and our CEO last week, we have raised our flag, and we have some video spots clearly committing to inclusion, to LGBTQ, to diversity. But as I said, we also have to accept realities. And let me add on again what Matt said beforehand, and thank you for your question, jeopardizing maybe for a long answer here. Russia is known that you're being, that this is really an issue, you know, that the people go against you locally if you commit that you're being gay. But what we have done, we have broadcasted our raising of the flag. I have never thought that this will be such a big lever, because what happens, some 50 people are standing together, we have a 5-minute speech, we raise the flag, we go back to the founding statements. But our Russian board was willing, at least 2 or 3 years ago, to broadcast the link on their intranet page. Now just imagine, and it's easy here, from the ivory tower of Wiener Städtische, to say, well, hey, that's the minimum what they could do. But they must not. And I think they were willing to expose themselves because they must not link to the group intranet page. So, but nevertheless, with this continuous information and saying, hey guys, listen, it's normal, go on. It's you know, why to kick out anyone to the left or the right? So that's the way how I believe. And we have to deal with this 1,000 out of 17 million euros. If this becomes bigger, and we have seen this now in the US, becoming more mindful and to think, well, if we still would like to deliver on our basic belief, well, how do we have to adjust that we nevertheless can deliver on it? Thank you for the question.
Hey there, my name is Matej Vtačnik. I'm from Slovakia, now an immigrant in Czech Republic. I welcome all your visibility and representation of the LGBT through your organizations. That's been phenomenal. I just wanted to ask, like, for a commitment or your visibility for the next, you know, when the pendulum swings to the other side and right side, like, do you see your organization supporting us in the next 18 months, and how much can we do that? I see it in Slovakia, where the acceptance of LGBT people are going just through the basement, essentially, completely to the gutter, because we had so much hate speech in the media by politicians and other people. And you, as leaders of organizations, have been the counteract to that by having those gay flags, and having that visibility has been phenomenal and fantastic. So I just wanted to support you and give you that little voice that do not scale down. Even if you have like populists like Fico and other animals out there, please support us more and be out there, because we need the positive lights of what you're doing. And thank you for doing that. I just wanted to hear a bit more on your support for the next couple of months and years.
I will be there.
Thank you.
Oh, I can't answer that question fully. I mean, I'm definitely there, but your other questions about the LGBT communities in certain countries, I think, is complex. In the UK, has become very transphobic, while at the same time still trying to maintain a level of kind of equality for gay and lesbian and bisexual people. That's another conversation. We could do a whole day about that, but unfortunately, UK is becoming a center for transphobia.
I think may I add, coming back to the campaign we have just live everywhere. I think we started that discussion internally when the FPÖ was the majority in the votes in autumn. So I think we said, you know, we want to set an example, because if it would have happened that the FPÖ would lead the country, then we would probably have similar things in Austria like we have in the US. And I think that companies like us, we really need to have that responsibility and show our responsibility. And I'm very certain that IKEA will stay to that course. I think that's what IKEA naturally is. I mean, I don't know, remember who has seen catalogs from the 80s where we have displayed same-sex couples, black people at a time where it was not as usual as it is now. So I think we will stay true to our values and our commitment. I think it's just we need to also convince others to do so. And also in times where it's difficult, where there is business cases out there, it's just, I would really ask everyone to spread the word. And I think these conferences like this really are a super opportunity to come together and really, be there together. Because sometimes you can feel alone at companies, and I think it really unites us. And I think we need to, go big and bold together. And I think one example Katja mentioned before is that if corporates come together, the RBE and IKEA was part of that blood donation law change. I think we really need to come together and not see ourselves as rivals. And I think really IKEA is part of many, many networks, and my colleague is very active in bringing other companies together, showcase how we do our inclusion.
Sure. The counter argument there is don't stand. Like if you come together, you can be scared together, right? You can say, oh, we're going to scale down. Oh my God, something's happening in America. Blah blah blah. My message is don't scale down. Like don't convince others. Just stay as you are, right? That's what you should do.
We will
thank
do.
You.
I just quickly wanted to add, of course, as a boat canoe, will definitely continue on the path, and I think also as a Chamber of Commerce, you know what is interesting, we're representing 600,000 companies, and we have next to, so we all have the Chamber of Commerce flag, we have the Austria flag, the EU flag, and of course the Pride flag. So you can imagine how many emails we're receiving about that. So yeah, we of course continue with that.
Thank you very much. I have seen other hands going up, but it's Pavel who tells me now that time is out. I say thank you to my 4 great panelists. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, for giving the insight, and thank you for your questions.